Hi, everybody. Today, the question that I'm answering is, can dealing with pain ruin caregiving relationships? Chronic pain that increases stress levels might have your emotions going up and down, like being on a roller coaster. And this can make caregiving relationships very difficult, whether you are the caregiver or the person who receives care. In caregiving relationships, adult children caring for parents, or you may be a spouse caring for a spouse. As that caregiver of the person who has any type of health issue that can cause any kind of pain, you are often on the receiving end of angry expressions and impatience and a lack of appreciation by the person who's in pain. In this video, I will share background about the relationship, the links between pain and anger that you might not know about, and steps that caregivers and their loved ones who are in pain can work through regarding all of these emotional interactions so that pain doesn't ruin your relationships and how you respond to your loved ones in pain. Think about this for a moment. I'm Pamela D. Wilson. My website is PamelaDWilson.com. On there you will find my podcast, The Caring Generation, my open courses on guardianship and caring for aging parents, my blog, my book, my library. Please click the button below, follow me, share my YouTube channel with other people who are looking for hope, help, and support. So let's start with the body and pain, because many of us don't really consider this, especially if we're healthy and we don't have any pain or health issues. We don't understand how this really can affect the people that we care for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. So it's the nervous system of our body that tells us that we're in pain. And pain can result in a lot of problems. So difficulty sleeping, you have headaches all the time, heartbeats racing, you feel out of control, you feel panicked, right? So there's a lot of effects of pain that you probably see in the people that you care for. So if you're in pain, it results in feeling out of control because you don't know how to stop this pain. The person in pain is like, oh, how do I stop this? Am I going to take more pills? What am I going to do, right? And that frustration, that pain leads to anger and screaming and groaning, or people throwing tantrums like they did as a child because they're reacting to not getting what they want, which is to be out of pain or to get attention or to get help from you as the caregiver. And so this is really stressful for caregivers. Now, all of this anger that results from pain is not something that it's hereditary, right? It's not hereditary. But what it can relate to is when we were children, how did our parents express anger? How did they deal with frustration? How did they deal with challenging situations? Did they blow up? Did they explode? If they did, then you as a child, or your parent as a child, or the person that you care for as a child, learned that if I'm upset, I scream. If I'm angry, I yell. I accuse people. I blame people. So if your parents didn't teach you how to deal with anger and frustration and upset in a constructive manner, then we, all of us, we tend to carry these behaviors into our adulthood and into our old age. Now, part of this also, though, is the way that the receiver, the caregiver, responds to a loved one in pain, because you can also, through your behaviors, train them that if they get angry and yell, you're going to jump, you're going to respond, you're going to give them more attention. And we'll talk about more of this in a moment and how to respond to that. But let's take a step back. So noticing the effect of anger on other people can help us respond differently or change our behaviors. Now, pain, though, complicates all this because somebody in pain is not thinking of anybody else. All they're thinking of is, I hurt, I'm in pain, I don't want to be in pain, I'm angry, nobody's helping me, and their brain just does not think clearly. And so all this pain and suffering can lead to very disruptive behaviors. They can't control their impulses to know that I shouldn't yell at my caregiver. I shouldn't say something unkind, right? It just like comes out. So you have all these emotional disorders and these mood disorders that can happen. So chronic pain, what is it? You may hear the word chronic all the time and you're like, what the heck does that mean? Chronic is something that, according to medical standards, right, lasts longer than 3 months. It's something that's not going to go away. And so chronic diseases, let's start with that, because this is what causes the pain, right? It's things like irritable bowel syndrome. People have fibromyalgia. They have back pain, headaches. Maybe they injured a body part and it just has never healed. It's this pain that's day in, day out, does not go away, and it just drives a person crazy, right? And so what research shows is that people who are in pain are commonly angry, and they express anger. So if you're a caregiver for mom or dad or a spouse or another person, and your loved one is in pain, they're frequently then probably not in a good mood and not kind and frustrated and angry. And so you're on the receiving end of this, right? But let's say that they're like this and maybe you don't even know they're in pain. So that's the first thing to investigate is mom or dad in pain? Is that why they're so angry all the time? Now, it could be a host of other things, but pain is a pretty researched, consistent predictor of anger. Now, people also do get angry if they're in pain because maybe they've tried to get doctors to help them and the healthcare system's not helping and there's no solutions and they feel like there's no hope, and so they're really just frustrated. Now, the downside is that you're the caregiver, you're on the receiving end of all of these emotions. And honestly, let's face it, it gets really old because you're having to bite your tongue every time they yell at you and you're thinking, I wish you would just find another outlet for your pain. Why does it have to be me? For the people who are expressing anger, unless the caregiver says something, right, they think that it's okay. It becomes like this routine for them that they're going to scream and yell and be mean all of the time. Because if the caregiver doesn't say anything, well, it must be okay, right? So in a sense, you're condoning, you're approving the behavior of this person who's in pain and who's in anger. And they don't understand how it's affecting you because you're not wanting to like argue with them or get into it because it's just going to be harder on you, right? But the problem is, you got this back and forth of they're angry all the time, they're yelling at you, and you're staying silent, so you're not stopping the situation. You're not blocking that from coming your way. So if you're the person on the receiving end of anger, what can you do? Here's a couple of tips, and then I'll give you some suggestions for what to say. So angry person yelling, screaming at you. Think about how it makes you feel. And what's the first thing that you think of when mom or dad starts to yell at you? Is it, oh, I hate this? Or is it, gosh, it's been like this all my life? Or it's like, I need to be patient with them. I mean, what is the first thing that you think of? And then how do you respond? Is your response to just, walk away or not say anything or, bite back at your parents, bark back, say, stop yelling at me, but then you never get resolution, right? So there can be this dynamic of you're both interacting this way, but there's no solution, right? So you have to recognize how you respond to be able to figure out how to respond in a better manner. Now, to do that, you may have to say, hey, I realize you're upset. I need to take a few minutes. I got to walk away. And then one thing that you can do is imagine in your mind what you're feeling. So what is this emotion? Close your eyes. What's this emotion that I'm feeling? Is it anger? Am I seeing all these black clouds and destruction and bombs blowing up? And if you are, for your own good, how do you change that to go to your happy place where you're saying, I don't know, somewhere you like to go or being with friends or music or something? Because because you got to be able to shift your mood out of that I feel attacked phase to a balanced phase to be able to figure out what to do. Now, this can take longer than 2 minutes. Honestly, there have been times when I've had to think about something overnight or for a couple of days so that I could figure out how I was feeling and try to figure out. Now, a lot of that, unfortunately, you need the help of the other person because you don't know what their intentions were, why they said what they said, why they're feeling what they're feeling. So while you can spend a lot of time trying to think about this and work it out on your own, you only have 50% of the equation over here. You only have 50% of the answer. You got to go back over here to talk to them to figure it all out. So what you want to get to is a place of, this is not good. It's not good for them. It's not good for me. How do we come together so that this situation doesn't keep repeating? Because it repeats every day, it repeats every week, it repeats, on a regular basis. And so here's some conversations that you can start to have. And you're going to have to do trial and error on these because some of these is obviously going to make the person more upset because you're saying, all of a sudden, you're saying, this isn't okay. I don't want to be on the receiving end of your anger. And obviously they're not going to like that, right? But to get to a place of balance in the relationship, you have to start saying something because in most cases you've probably been silent for a long time, right? So mom or dad are screaming and yelling, and you pause and you say, hey, you know what? I hear what you're saying. I would like to not be on the receiving end of your anger. I have a whole different perspective about this situation. If you want to hear it, I'm happy to share it. I'd also like to learn a little bit more about why you're so angry all the time. You can also say, I'm not sure I understand why you're angry. I hear that you're angry about this, but why are you angry and what do you intend to do about this? Because I hear you complain about this every day. You can also say, well, you know yourself better than anybody else. What do you plan to do about this? Then other things that you can say. I know that you don't feel well all the time, and I know you're in a lot of pain, and I'm healthy, so I really can't imagine what that feels like. But what I can tell you is, I can tell you what it feels like to me. You're being angry and frustrated and not appreciating what I do. All that being angry and snapping and yelling and throwing things around and all of that and groaning, it might be routine for you. It might be the way that you deal with not feeling good, right? But those behaviors make me feel uncomfortable. They make me want to run away. They make me want to avoid you instead of help you. So if you want me to continue to help you, we have to come to some understanding or some middle ground. All I'm asking is that you consider how your angry behaviors, frustrated behaviors, affect me and affect the other people in your life who love you and want to take care of you. Now, again, as I mentioned, when you start to change the way that you respond, the person on the other end is probably going to just blow up. So you got to be prepared for that, right? Because if they're angry all the time, they haven't learned how to deal with their emotions. And honestly, this may not be an area where you can help. It may or may not. They may need to talk to someone else, talk to a support group, talk to a counselor to learn how to manage their feelings. But then on the medical side, there's also, how do we manage the pain? How do we manage the medical condition? What's the best thing that we can expect? What can we do? How can we do this? So there's a lot more investigation. And you as the caregiver, while you want to jump in and take that on, don't necessarily have to take that on. You can say, look, mom or dad or spouse or husband, wife, whatever, you're dealing with all this. Go do your research. Talk to your doctor. Figure it out. I'm here to help, but I'm not going to do the work for you. because they have to be the ones to come to the realization that this is a problem and they have to want to do something about it. And doing something about it is talking to doctors. It's doing their research. It's gaining support. It's going to a counselor. You as that caregiver, as the receiver of all of this anger and feelings and frustrations and relationships, you have a choice whether you want to be involved or not, because you're on the receiving end of all of this, right? And more than likely, I suspect it's damaged your emotional health and your physical health, and it's affecting a lot of other parts of your life. So if your loved one won't seek help and you want to stay in this relationship, you have to figure out how to set boundaries. Maybe you can't be that caregiver. Maybe they have to move to a care community. Maybe you have to hire outside help. You may also need counseling or support so that you have tools on how to deal with this. But I can tell you that trying to start to restore balance in the relationship is probably going to feel uncomfortable for you, very uncomfortable for the other person. But until you do that, you may be in a position where pain, anger, frustration is really going to damage your relationship long term. And is that really what you want? If it's not what you want, then you've got to do something differently. I'm Pamela D. Wilson. My website is PamelaDWilson.com. On there, a lot of articles, podcasts, videos, information in my library, online courses for caregivers and aging adults, all about caregiving health and everything in between. So please, again, like my YouTube channel, share these videos with other people that you know who are looking for hope, help, and support. Thanks for being here. I will see you all again soon in another video.